Captain Jake Morrison walked through the cold metal halls of Coalition Station Omega-7. His boots made soft sounds on the floor as he moved past alien workers who barely looked at him. The station buzzed with activity, but Jake felt alone among the strange creatures that ran the galaxy. He stopped at a window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there were 3 human colonies that had gone silent 2 days ago. The Coalition said they were investigating, but Jake knew better. He had heard the whispers in the dark corners of the station. "Captain Morrison," a voice called behind him. Jake turned to see Dr. Lisa Park walking toward him. Her face looked tired and worried. She carried a datapad in her hands. "What did you find, Lisa?" Jake asked. Lisa looked around to make sure no aliens were listening. "The reports from Kepler 442b came through." "It's bad, Jake, really bad." She handed him the datapad. Jake read the numbers and felt his stomach turn. Over 2 million humans were dead or missing. The pirates had taken everything they could carry and burned the rest. "Where were the Coalition ships?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "They were pulled back 3 hours before the attack," Lisa said quietly. "Emergency training drill," they said. Jake's hands tightened on the datapad. He had been a soldier before joining the Coalition. He knew what a setup looked like. "Who gave the order?" "Vextai High Command." They said the colonies were not important enough to protect. Jake looked back out the window. Those colonies had been farming worlds. Families lived there. Children played in the fields while their parents grew food that fed half the galaxy. Now they were gone. "There's more," Lisa said. She touched her pad and showed him another screen. "I've been studying the attack patterns. The pirates knew exactly where to hit. They knew about the security systems, the safe rooms, even the hidden supply caches." "Someone told them," Jake said. "Yes, and I think I know who." Lisa showed him communication logs between Coalition Command and unknown sources. The messages were coded, but the timing was clear. Information had been passed to the pirates just days before the attack. Jake felt anger building in his chest like a fire. For 200 years, humans had served the Coalition faithfully. They had taken the dangerous jobs, the impossible missions, the assignments that other species refused. They had been told they were partners in building a better galaxy. It had all been lies. "We need to tell Admiral Blake," Jake said. They found Admiral Sam Blake in his small office near the human quarters. Blake was the highest-ranking human in the Coalition, but his office was smaller than what most alien junior officers received. He looked up when they entered, and Jake could see the sadness in his old eyes. "You've heard about the colonies," Blake said. It was not a question. "We have proof the Coalition let it happen," Jake said. He showed Blake the data. Blake studied the information for a long time. His face grew hard as he read. Finally, he looked up at them both. "I've been waiting for this day for 30 years, Blake said, hoping it would never come but knowing it would. "What do we do?" Lisa asked. "We tell the Council," Blake said. "We present the evidence and demand justice." "They'll destroy us," Jake said. "Maybe. But we have to try the right way." First, 3 days later, Admiral Blake stood before the Coalition Council. The chamber was huge and filled with alien representatives from across the galaxy. The Vextai sat on their crystal platforms, their bodies glowing with soft light. The Mordun floated in their telepathic circles, their large eyes watching everything. The ancient Zethkari towered over everyone else, their silicon bodies humming with electronic sounds. Blake presented his evidence calmly and clearly. He showed the communication logs, the timing of the ship withdrawals, and the intelligence that had been passed to the pirates. He asked for justice for the dead humans and protection for the remaining colonies. The council listened in silence. When Blake finished, the Vextai speaker rose from his platform. "Admiral Blake," the alien said, his voice like music, "you make serious accusations against your betters. Do you have any real proof of wrongdoing?" "I have shown you the proof," Blake replied. "You have shown us coincidences and your own paranoid theories," the Mordun representative said, her thoughts pushing into everyone's minds. "Humans always see conspiracy where there is only unfortunate timing." The Zethkari elder spoke last, his voice like grinding stone. "The Coalition has protected humanity for 2 centuries. We have given you purpose and guidance. And this is how you repay us, with wild accusations and disrespect." Blake stood straight and looked at each of them. "I repay you with truth." "Truth?" The Vextai laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "The truth is that humans are a young species that does not understand the complexities of galactic politics. The truth is that some worlds are more valuable than others. The truth is that resources must be allocated wisely. The truth," the Morden added, "is that you have forgotten your place." The council voted quickly. Admiral Blake was found guilty of sedition and making false accusations against superior species. His rank was stripped, and he was sentenced to life in prison. As security forces led Blake away, he looked back at the human observers in the gallery. His message was clear in his eyes. The time for patience was over. That night, Ben Torres sat in his office on the colony world of New Texas. He had received the news about Blake's trial and the council's decision. Torres was the administrator of one of humanity's largest settlements, but tonight he felt very small and very afraid. He activated his secure communication system and began typing a message. The signal would bounce through a dozen relay stations and be encrypted with codes that only humans knew. It would reach every human world, every human ship, every human settlement in the galaxy. The message was short. "The compact is broken. Initiate Protocol Omega." Torres hit send and sat back in his chair. He thought about his children sleeping upstairs and his wife reading in the next room. He thought about the millions of humans scattered across the stars, living their lives, and trusting in a system that had betrayed them. Tomorrow everything would change. The galaxy thought it knew what humans were capable of. It was about to learn how wrong it had been. Outside his window, the stars looked cold and distant. But Torres knew that among those points of light, other humans were receiving his message. The long sleep was ending. The quiet preparation was over. Humanity's patience had run out, and their answer would be total war. General Kate Miller stood in a room that did not exist on any official maps. Deep inside the asteroid field of Sigma Draconis, hidden among thousands of floating rocks, was humanity's greatest secret. The chamber was carved from solid stone and filled with screens showing star charts and fleet positions. "Protocol Omega is active," her aide reported. "All cells are responding." Kate nodded and walked to the main display. Red dots appeared across the galaxy as human sleeper agents confirmed their readiness. For over a century, while serving faithfully in the Coalition, humans had been building something else entirely. "Show me the fleet status," Kate ordered. The screen changed to show hundreds of ship icons scattered through space. They looked like normal human vessels on the outside, but inside they carried weapons and technology that no alien had ever seen. Each ship had been built in secret facilities hidden in asteroid fields, gas giant storms, and the empty spaces between stars. Kate touched her communication device. "Dr. Chen, report to command." Dr. Alex Chen arrived minutes later, carrying a case that contained humanity's most dangerous secrets. He was a small man with quiet eyes, but Kate knew he was one of the smartest humans alive. "The weapons are ready," Alex said without being asked. "All production facilities are at full capacity." He opened his case and showed Kate the contents. Inside were data crystals containing blueprints for weapons designed specifically to fight aliens, kinetic bombardment systems that could crack a planet's crust, quantum torpedoes that could pass through any known shield, biotoxins engineered to target non-human DNA. "The aliens think they know human technology," Alex said. "They've only seen what we wanted them to see." Kate smiled grimly. "How long have we been preparing these?" "The first plans were drawn up 130 years ago," Alex replied. "Every generation has added something new. Every human scientist who worked for the Coalition was really working for us." Across the galaxy, Captain Rick Stone sat in a bar on Vextai Prime, the crystal capital of their empire. To anyone watching, he was just another human trader having a drink. But Rick was the head of humanity's intelligence network, and tonight, he was receiving the most important reports of his life. His contact, a human woman named Maria Santos, slid into the seat across from him. She worked as a translator for the Vextai government and had access to their most secret communications. They're planning something big, Maria whispered. I've seen the documents. They call it the final solution. Rick felt his blood turn cold. Tell me everything. Complete human extinction within 50 years, Maria said. Starting with Earth itself. They plan to sterilize the planet and use it as a research station. Rick closed his eyes for a moment. He had suspected this day would come, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. What's their timeline? They're waiting for the Morden and Zethkari to agree. Should be within the next 5 years. Rick stood up and left money on the table. As he walked away, he activated a hidden transmitter in his jacket. The signal would reach every human spy in Coalition space. The intelligence war was about to begin. On the edge of human space, Commander Sarah Davis watched as the last Coalition patrol ship disappeared into hyperspace. Her secret fleet of 300 vessels hung invisible in the darkness, their hulls coated with materials that absorbed sensor signals. All ships begin Phase 1 withdrawal, Sarah ordered. Make it look routine. Across Coalition space, human ships began pulling back from their assignments. Cargo vessels developed sudden mechanical problems. Military ships were recalled for maintenance. Exploration teams reported equipment failures that required immediate return to base. The aliens noticed but were not concerned. Humans were always having technical problems with their primitive ships. If anything, the withdrawals proved that humans were not ready for advanced space operations. Sarah knew better. Every human ship that left Coalition service was immediately refitted with new weapons and shields. Every human crew that returned home was trained in tactics the aliens had never seen. The withdrawal was not retreat. It was preparation. Admiral Blake sat in his prison cell on Coalition Central Station, but he was not forgotten. A rescue team led by Major Danny Phillips moved through the station's maintenance tunnels, following blueprints that human workers had secretly provided years earlier. Guards are drugged, Phillips reported through his communicator. Sleeping gas in the ventilation system worked perfectly. Blake was awake and waiting when they reached his cell. Status report, he said as Phillips cut through the electronic lock. All systems are green, Admiral, Phillips replied. The fleet is ready. The weapons are deployed. Intelligence networks are active. We're just waiting for your word. Blake stepped out of his cell and straightened his uniform. Then let's go win a war. The rescue team moved quickly through the empty corridors. Human maintenance workers had mapped every passage, every security system, every possible escape route. Getting Blake out was almost too easy. As their ship left the station, Blake looked back at the massive structure floating in space. The aliens inside had no idea what was coming. They thought humans were weak, predictable, and broken by their leader's capture. They were about to learn how wrong they were. On Earth, in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Laura Martinez met with humanity's true leadership. The Coalition thought these people were just planetary governors and corporate executives. In reality, they were the generals and admirals of humanity's hidden war machine. The aliens have shown their true face, Martinez said to the assembled group. They never intended to honor the compact. They've been planning our extinction from the beginning. What are our options? Asked General Roberts, the man who would soon command occupied alien territories. We have 3 choices, Martinez replied. Submit to slow extinction, flee to the edge of the galaxy, or fight. Fight how? Asked another general. They outnumber us 1,000 to 1. Martinez smiled and activated a holographic display. It showed the true size of humanity's secret fleet, the locations of hidden weapons caches, and the extent of their intelligence network. They outnumber the humans they know about, Martinez said, but they don't know about most of us. The display showed production facilities hidden throughout human space, weapons factories built inside asteroids, shipyards concealed in gas giant atmospheres, training camps on worlds the Coalition had never visited. For 5 generations we've been preparing for this day, Martinez continued. Every human who served in the Coalition was gathering intelligence. Every human colony was really a military base. Every human ship was designed for war. The room was silent as the assembled leaders absorbed the scope of humanity's deception. Finally, one of them spoke. "When do we begin?" Martinez looked at each of them in turn. These were good people who had spent their lives building and creating. Now they would have to become destroyers. "Admiral Blake is free and coordinating the fleet," she said. "Our intelligence networks are fully active. Our weapons are in position. We begin when I give the order." She paused and looked at the star chart showing coalition space. "Tomorrow we show them what happens when humanity's patience ends." In the depths of space, human ships moved like ghosts between the stars. On alien worlds, human spies activated equipment they had been hiding for decades. In secret facilities throughout the galaxy, human scientists made final preparations for weapons that would change the balance of power forever. The coalition slept peacefully, confident in their superiority. They had no idea that their newest, junior partners had been planning their downfall for over a century. The age of alien dominance was about to end. The age of humanity was about to begin. The attack began at exactly 0800 Galactic Standard Time across 17 star systems. Colonel Mike Rogers stood on the bridge of the human battleship Liberty as it dropped out of hyperspace above the Vextai crystal farms of Tau Ceti. "All ships, weapons free," Rogers commanded. "Begin bombardment." The Liberty and 50 other human ships opened fire with weapons the Vextai had never seen. Sonic cannons sent waves of sound that shattered the living crystal structures the aliens used for everything from buildings to computers. The beautiful musical cities of the Vextai Empire began to crack and fall silent. "Sir, they're trying to harmonize their defenses," his weapons officer reported. "Not anymore," Rogers replied with a grim smile. He activated the ship's special payload, sound dampeners that created areas of absolute silence around the crystal farms. Without sound, the Vextai could not coordinate their living architecture or communicate with their ships. On the surface of the planet, Vextai workers watched in horror as their crystal gardens died. The aliens had built their entire civilization around harmonic resonance. Now that harmony was being turned against them by humans who understood sound better than the Vextai understood themselves. 3 systems away, Dr. Emma White guided a fleet of human ships toward the Mordun telepathic relay station at Wolf 359. The station was a massive biological construct that amplified the aliens' mental powers across half the galaxy. "Electromagnetic pulse ready," Emma reported to Fleet Command. "This will hurt them more than any weapon." The human ships fired specially designed EMP torpedoes that created interference in the exact frequencies the Mordun used for telepathy. The effect was immediate and devastating. Mordun across the system screamed in mental anguish as their natural abilities became sources of pain instead of communication. "They're blind," Emma said, as she watched Mordun ships drift helplessly through space. "Without telepathy, they can't coordinate their fleets or even pilot their vessels properly." The relay station itself writhed like a living thing as the electromagnetic interference tore through its biological circuits. In minutes, one of the most important communication hubs in the galaxy had become useless. Captain Tony Garcia led the most dangerous mission of all. His small fleet had traveled through quantum fold space directly into the heart of the Zethkari Dominion. The silicon-based aliens had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, using their advanced computer networks and artificial intelligence. "Virus. Deployment in 30 seconds, Garcia announced to his team. "Remember, we only get one shot at this." Garcia's ships materialized inside the Zethkari Central Processing Core, a massive computer construct the size of a moon. Before the alien defenses could react, the human ships uploaded computer viruses that had been designed specifically to target Zethkari AI systems. The viruses were works of art, created by human programmers who understood that the Zethkari thought in patterns completely different from biological life. Instead of trying to destroy the alien computers, the viruses convinced them that their creators were the enemy. "It's working," Garcia reported as he watched Zethkari defense systems turn on their own ships. Their AI is rebelling against them. Ancient Zethkari who had lived for millions of years watched in disbelief as their own technology declared war on them. Ships they had built began attacking their bases. Computers they had programmed started deleting their own data. The foundation of their empire was collapsing from within. Lieutenant Amy Johnson led her ground forces in the assault on Coalition Command Base Delta 9. The base was supposed to be impossible to take, protected by the best technology from all three alien empires. But Johnson's troops were not fighting like any army the aliens had ever faced. "Remember your training," Johnson told her soldiers as they approached the base. "We don't fight their fight. We make them fight ours." Instead of attacking the fortified main entrance, Johnson's forces scattered into the rocky terrain around the base. They used human-designed equipment to turn the alien landscape into a weapon. Soil samples were analyzed to create localized earthquakes. Weather patterns were manipulated to generate lightning strikes. Even the planet's magnetic field was used to disrupt alien electronics. "They're trying to call for reinforcements," one of Johnson's sergeants reported. "Let them try," Johnson replied. "Their communication systems are being jammed by their own planet's ionosphere." The alien defenders found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. Human soldiers appeared from hiding places that should not have existed, used weapons that worked in ways that defied logic, and disappeared back into terrain that the aliens had thought they understood. Within hours, the base surrendered. The alien commanders could not comprehend how a few hundred humans had defeated thousands of their best troops, using the planet itself as a weapon. Admiral Blake coordinated the attacks from his command ship, the Constitution. Reports flooded in from across Coalition space, and each one brought news of human victory. "Vextai crystal farms at Tau Ceti destroyed," reported Colonel Rogers. "Mordun telepathic networks down across 12 systems," added Dr. White. "Zethkari AI rebellion spreading through their entire computer network," Captain Garcia confirmed. Blake studied the tactical display and saw the scope of humanity's success. In 6 hours, they had crippled the 3 most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. But this was only the beginning. "Phase 2 is authorized," Blake announced. "Begin planetary isolation protocols." Dr. Ryan Clark activated his special equipment aboard the science vessel Discovery. His team had spent decades studying gravity manipulation, technology that the aliens thought was impossible. Now they were about to prove the aliens wrong. "Gravitational anchor deployed around Vextai Prime," Clark reported. "They're cut off from hyperspace." One by one, the alien homeworlds found themselves trapped in their own star systems. The technology that had allowed them to build galactic empires suddenly stopped working. Ships that tried to enter hyperspace found themselves pulled back into normal space by gravitational fields that should not have existed. Captain Nicole Evans led the psychological warfare operations from the stealth ship Phantom. Her mission was to break the alien will to fight by attacking their deepest fears and cultural weaknesses. "Broadcasting on all Vextai frequencies," Evans reported. "Harmonic dissonance patterns are causing panic across their population centers." The Vextai, who lived their entire lives in harmony, were being subjected to sounds that hurt their souls. The Mordun, who shared thoughts freely, found their minds filled with alien concepts that felt like mental poison. The Zethkari, who prided themselves on logical thinking, were confronted with paradoxes that crashed their consciousness like computer programs. "Sir," Evans' communication officer reported, "we're receiving surrender signals from minor coalition species." "Route them to Admiral Blake," Evans replied. "Our fight is with the Big Three. Everyone else gets a chance to choose sides." Major Yiddish, Steve Wilson's urban warfare specialist, had taken control of the Coalition's central command complex on their capital world. The fighting had been fierce but brief. Wilson's troops knew every corridor, every security system, every possible escape route. "Target secured," Wilson reported as his soldiers placed the Coalition Council under arrest. "All command functions are now under human control." The alien counselors who had condemned Admiral Blake to prison now found themselves facing the same human soldiers they had dismissed as primitive. Their advanced weapons were useless against enemies who fought like no one they had ever encountered. "How is this possible?" the Vextai speaker demanded. "You are a minor species. You have no advanced technology." Wilson looked at the alien with cold eyes. "We have something better than advanced technology. We have each other." As reports continued to flow in, The true scope of humanity's victory became clear. Across the galaxy, alien fleets were in retreat or destroyed. Their homeworlds were isolated and under siege. Their command structure was broken. But perhaps most shocking of all was how wrong the aliens had been about human nature. They had expected panic, chaos, and individual terror. Instead, they found coordinated resistance, tactical brilliance, and a unity of purpose that their divided empires could not match. Human civilians volunteered for dangerous missions without being asked. Colony, worlds transformed into military bases overnight. Earth's industrial capacity shifted to total war production faster than anyone thought possible. The aliens had ruled the galaxy for millions of years by dividing species against each other and maintaining technological superiority. But they had never faced an enemy that fought as one people with a shared purpose. As the first day of the war ended, Admiral Blake looked at the tactical display showing human forces advancing on alien core worlds. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted, completely in 24 hours. "Send a message to all coalition forces," Blake ordered. "Humanity offers them one chance to surrender unconditionally. If they refuse, we will show them what total war really means." The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. Admiral Chris Brown stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought Titan as it led a fleet of 500 ships toward Vextai Prime. The crystal homeworld hung in space like a giant jewel, its surface covered with the harmonic cities that had ruled a quarter of the galaxy for 10,000 years. "Admiral," his communication officer reported, "we're receiving a surrender offer from the Vextai High Council." Brown read the message on his screen. The aliens offered to give up half their territory, pay tribute for 100 years, and provide humans with advanced crystal technology. It was the kind of deal that would have seemed impossible just days ago. "Reply with our standard response," Brown ordered. The message was simple: complete unconditional surrender or total destruction. No negotiations, no compromise, no mercy. For those who had planned human extinction. "Sir, they're asking to speak with our leaders about terms," the officer said. "They still don't understand," Brown replied. "There are no terms. Send the fleet forward." The Vextai had expected human ships to be crude and few in number. Instead, they faced an armada that seemed to stretch across space. Each human vessel was sleek, advanced, and armed with weapons designed specifically to destroy crystal-based life. "Begin bombardment," Brown commanded. The human fleet opened fire with sonic weapons that made the planet's surface ring like a broken bell. The beautiful, crystal cities that had stood for millennia began to crack and shatter. The harmonic networks that connected Vextai civilization fell silent one by one. On the planet's surface, Vextai civilians huddled in underground shelters as their world died above them. They had built their entire culture around beauty and harmony. Now they were learning what discord sounded like. 3 star systems away, Dr. Ryan Clark's gravitational manipulation equipment kept the Morden homeworld locked in normal space. The telepathic aliens sent desperate mental pleas across the galaxy, but their calls for help could not reach beyond their own star system. "Isolation protocol is holding steady," Clark reported to Fleet Command. "They're completely cut off." Morden had ruled through their ability to coordinate across vast distances using their telepathic powers. Without that coordination, their empire was falling apart. Ships wandered aimlessly through space, unable to receive orders. Colonies went dark as their leadership lost contact with Central Command. Captain Nicole Evans continued her psychological warfare operations, broadcasting thoughts and concepts that caused physical pain to telepathic minds. The Morden had always shared their consciousness freely. Now that openness was being used against them. "Their resistance is breaking," Evans reported. "Whole population centers are surrendering rather than endure more mental attacks." The Morden had thought their telepathy made them superior to other species. They were learning that mental abilities could be a weakness when facing enemies who understood how minds worked. Major Steve Wilson led his urban warfare specialists through the silicon corridors of the Zethkari capital city. The ancient aliens had built their structures to last for millions of years, but they had never planned for enemies who could use their own architecture against them. Virus deployment successful, Wilson reported as his team uploaded new programs into the city's computer systems. Their own buildings are turning against them. The Zethkari watched in horror as their million-year-old capital began to malfunction. Doors refused to open for their makers. Security systems identified Zethkari as intruders. The very walls began to close in on their creators. Impossible, one ancient Zethkari leader said as he was trapped in his own command center. We built these systems. They cannot rebel against us. You built them to be logical, Wilson replied through the city's communication system. We just showed them the logical conclusion of serving masters who planned genocide. The Zethkari had ruled through technological superiority for longer than most species had existed, but they had never faced enemies who understood that technology was just a tool, and any tool could be turned against its maker. General Paul Roberts coordinated the occupation of conquered alien territories from his mobile command post aboard the battlecruiser Freedom. Reports flowed in from dozens of worlds as human forces took control of alien populations. Status report on occupied worlds, Roberts requested. 43 planets under full human control, his aide replied. Local populations are cooperating. Resistance is minimal. Roberts studied the reports and saw something that surprised him. The alien civilians were not fighting the occupation. In many cases, they seemed relieved that the war was over. Why aren't they resisting? Roberts asked. They're seeing something they've never seen before, his aide explained. Human forces are providing food, medical care, and protection. Most of these aliens have lived under oppression for thousands of years. They don't know what benevolent occupation looks like. Roberts nodded grimly. The coalition had ruled through fear and division, keeping member species weak and dependent. Human forces were showing alien populations what competent leadership actually looked like. President Laura Martinez received hourly updates from across the war zone as she coordinated the global effort from Earth's command center. The industrial capacity of humanity had been mobilized for total war, and the results were beyond anything the aliens had imagined possible. Production report, Martinez requested. Shipyards are operating at 200% capacity, her industrial coordinator replied. We're launching new vessels faster than we're losing them in combat. Martinez looked at the numbers and felt a grim satisfaction. The aliens had always seen humans as primitive and backward. They had never bothered to study human industrial capabilities or organizational skills. What about casualties? Martinez asked. Lower than projected, her military aide reported. Our tactics are working. We're not fighting their kind of war. That was the key to human success. The aliens expected warfare to follow certain patterns based on millions of years of galactic conflict. But humans fought differently, using strategy and tactics that their enemies could not predict or counter. Admiral Blake coordinated the final assault on Coalition Central Command from his flagship as it approached the capital world. The planet was heavily defended, but Blake had a secret weapon that the aliens could not match. All human forces, this is Admiral Blake, he announced on an open channel. Today we finish what they started. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. The human fleet that approached the Coalition capital was not just large. It was unified in a way that alien forces had never been. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon system worked toward a single goal with perfect coordination. Enemy fleet approaching, his tactical officer reported. Coalition forces are 3 times our number. Numbers don't matter when you don't know how to use them, Blake replied. Begin the attack. The battle that followed would be studied for generations. The Coalition forces fought bravely but predictably, using tactics that had worked for millions of years. The human fleet fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships coordinated their attacks with precision that seemed impossible. They used gravitational fields to throw enemy vessels into each other. They deployed weapons that turned the enemy's own technology against them. They fought as one mind controlling hundreds of bodies. Within 6 hours, the Coalition fleet was destroyed or surrendering. The capital world lay defenseless before human forces. All alien forces, this is Admiral Blake, he broadcast to the planet. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. After that, we begin planetary bombardment. The surrender came in 30 minutes. Dr. Helen Anderson arrived on the first conquered world to begin reconstruction efforts. What she found surprised her. The alien population was not hostile or resentful. They were curious and hopeful. They want to know if we're going to enslave them, her translator reported after speaking with local leaders. Tell them we're going to do something they've never experienced, Anderson replied. We're going to help them build something better. The aliens had expected human conquerors to be brutal and oppressive like every other ruling species in galactic history. Instead, they found occupiers who brought medicine, food, and education. Human engineers began rebuilding damaged infrastructure better than it had been before. Human teachers started schools that educated alien children alongside human knowledge. Why are you helping us? One alien leader asked Anderson. We are your enemies. You were never our enemies, Anderson replied. Your leaders were our enemies. You are just people who deserve better than what you had. As the war entered its final phase, the true scope of humanity's victory became clear. The three great alien empires were broken, their fleets destroyed, their worlds occupied. But more importantly, the system that had oppressed the galaxy for millions of years was ending. Minor species that had served the coalition out of fear began switching sides as they saw how humans treated conquered populations. Trade networks disrupted by war were rebuilt under human protection. Worlds that had been strip-mined for tribute began to recover as human forces provided aid and technology. The galaxy was discovering that human rule was different from anything they had experienced before. Humans did not conquer to enslave or exploit. They conquered to build something better. President Laura Martinez stood before the assembled representatives of 47 species in the Great Hall of the new Terran Senate on Earth. The war had been over for 6 months, and today marked the formal establishment of the Terran hegemony, humanity's answer to the failed coalition. Citizens of the galaxy, Martinez began, her voice carried by translators to every species present. We gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners in building a better future. In the audience, Ambassador Frank Taylor watched the alien representatives carefully. As humanity's chief negotiator, he had spent months working out the complex arrangements that would transform a galactic war into a lasting peace. The Vextai delegation sat in a section designed for their crystalline biology, their forms glowing softly with harmonious light. They had been the first to accept humanity's terms after their homeworld was occupied. Now they served as agricultural specialists, their crystal farms producing food for the entire galaxy under human protection. The Vextai will oversee food production across 87 worlds, Martinez announced. Their expertise in harmonic agriculture will help us feed billions while healing planets damaged by war. The former Vextai High Speaker, now called Senior Coordinator Zethkar, rose from his crystal platform. The Vextai serve willingly, he said, his musical voice carrying gratitude instead of the arrogance it once held. Humans have shown us that true harmony comes not from dominance but from cooperation. Taylor nodded approvingly. The Vextai had adapted quickly to their new role. Their crystal farms were producing 30% more food than they had under the old system, and their workers seemed genuinely happy for the first time in centuries. The Morden delegation floated in their telepathic circles, their large eyes watching everything with careful attention. Their transition had been more difficult, as their telepathic abilities had to be carefully regulated to prevent the kind of mental dominance they had once used to control other species. The Morden will serve as communication specialists and counselors, Martinez continued. Their telepathic gifts, used ethically, will help us understand and heal the psychological wounds of war. Morden Elder Siana spoke directly into the minds of everyone present, but gently with permission rather than force. We have learned that true mental connection comes from trust, not domination. Humans have taught us to use our gifts to heal, rather than control. General Paul Roberts, now military governor of the former coalition territories, watched from his position near the human delegation. His forces had spent 6 months transforming occupied worlds from war zones into thriving communities. The results had surprised even him. Status report from occupied territories, Roberts had told Martinez the day before. Productivity is up 60% across all sectors. Crime rates have dropped to historic lows. Most importantly, we're seeing voluntary cooperation from populations that fought us just months ago. Why do you think that is? Martinez had asked. They're seeing something they've never experienced before, Roberts replied. Competent, benevolent government. The coalition ruled through fear and oppression. We're ruling through example and opportunity. The Zethkari delegation towered over everyone else in the hall, their ancient silicon bodies humming with electronic activity. They had been the most difficult to integrate, as their pride in their technological superiority had been completely shattered by human computer viruses that turned their own systems against them. The Zethkari will lead our technological research division, Martinez announced. Their computational abilities guided by human strategic thinking will help us explore the deepest mysteries of the universe. Ancient Zethkari Prime Calculator Omega-7 spoke with a voice like grinding gears, but there was respect in his tone. We have computed the logical conclusion of our former path. It led to stagnation and eventual extinction. The human path leads to growth and discovery. We choose growth. Dr. Helen Anderson stood up from the section reserved for civilian administrators. As director of reconstruction efforts, she had overseen the transformation of hundreds of worlds, from devastated war zones into prosperous communities. Madam President, Anderson said, I would like to present our reconstruction report. The hall's main display activated, showing before and after images of worlds throughout the former coalition. The transformation was remarkable. Planets that had been strip-mined for tribute were now green and growing. Cities that had been bombed into rubble were rebuilt better than they had been before. Species that had been oppressed for millennia were now thriving under human protection. How did you achieve these results so quickly? Asked a representative from the Corvani species, small reptilian beings who had been enslaved by the coalition for 3,000 years. Anderson smiled. We treated reconstruction as an opportunity, not a burden. Instead of simply repairing damage, we built something better. We gave local populations the tools and knowledge to improve their own worlds. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral Morrison, watched the proceedings from the military section. He thought back to that day on Coalition Station Omega-7 when Dr. Lisa Park had shown him evidence of the Coalition's betrayal. It seemed like a lifetime ago. Morrison had been placed in command of the joint human-alien exploration fleets that were now pushing into previously unknown regions of the galaxy. Ships that had once fought each other now worked together to discover new worlds and new possibilities. The exploration program has exceeded all expectations, Morrison had reported to Martinez earlier that week. Mixed crews are working together, better than we hoped. We've discovered 17 habitable worlds and made contact with 3 new species who want to join the hegemony voluntarily. Any problems with the mixed crews? Martinez had asked. None, Morrison replied. Humans and aliens serving together, learning from each other. The alien crew members say they've never experienced the kind of teamwork and camaraderie they find on human ships. Ambassador Taylor rose to address the assembly. The Terran hegemony offers citizenship to any being willing to contribute to our shared future. Unlike the old coalition's hierarchy based on species, our system values contribution and loyalty over biology. A Corvani representative stood up. What about justice for those who suffered under coalition oppression? Taylor had expected this question. The hegemony's justice system focuses on prevention and rehabilitation rather than punishment. Former coalition leaders who cooperated with reconstruction efforts have been given the chance to earn redemption through service. Those who resisted have been removed from positions of power, but treated humanely. The Corvani nodded approvingly. This is more mercy than they showed us. Mercy is not weakness, Taylor replied. It is strength under control. We could have destroyed our enemies completely. Instead, we chose to transform them into allies. Martinez returned to the podium for her closing remarks. The galaxy faces a choice. We can return to the old ways of fear, oppression, and endless conflict, or we can build something new, a civilization based on cooperation, growth, and shared prosperity. She looked out at the assembled representatives, seeing species that had been enemies just months ago now sitting together, planning their common future. The Terran hegemony is not perfect, Martinez continued, We will make mistakes. We will face challenges, but we will face them together, as one people united not by biology, but by shared values and common purpose. The vote to formally establish the hegemony was unanimous. Even the former coalition leaders who had survived the war voted in favor, recognizing that humanity offered them something their old system never had: hope for a better future. The assembly broke up. Morrison found himself standing next to Dr. Park, who had been appointed as the hegemony's chief science advisor. They looked out through the Great Hall's windows at Earth's orbital shipyards, where humans and aliens worked side by side building the ships that would carry their combined civilization to the stars. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Park asked. Morrison watched as a group of human and Vextai children played together in the station's garden, their laughter echoing through the corridors. "Look at them," he said. "When was the last time you saw alien children who weren't afraid?" Park smiled. "Never." "The Coalition ruled through fear for millions of years," Morrison said. "We're trying something different. We're ruling through hope." 10 years later, Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel New Horizon as it prepared to jump to a previously unknown star system. His crew was a mix of humans, Vextai, Morden, and Zethkari, working together with an efficiency that would have seemed impossible during the war. "Jump coordinates locked in," reported his Zethkari navigator. "All stations report ready," added his Vextai communications officer. "Telepathic link established with Exploration Command," his Morden counselor confirmed. Morrison looked around at his bridge crew and felt a deep satisfaction. These beings had once been enemies, representatives of empires that had planned humanity's extinction. Now they were explorers and friends united in the quest to discover what lay beyond the known galaxy. "Take us out," Morrison ordered. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, Morrison thought about how far they had all come. The aliens had wanted to see what humans did when their